So welcome everyone to our second of a series of so far 4 scheduled coronavirus and co-housing chats. Very much like last week's chat, we're here to share ideas, to just be together as a larger community of co-housers, to think about what we can do for each other, to share ideas and that sort of thing. And I just want to take a minute to welcome everybody. So I'm Karen Gimnig, and I am the Communications Director of the Co-Housing Association of the United States. Karen Hoskin is here too. She's doing mostly tech support tonight, but she's with us as well. And she is our Executive Director for the association. As you registered for this web chat, you were probably given an opportunity to donate to the association, and some of you did, and we really, really appreciate that. One of the things that donation helps us do is maintain the infrastructure that allowed us to pull these chats together so quickly. Because of the months and years past where we've built the infrastructure, we have the staff on hand, we have the email lists ready to send out to you and announce, we have a web chat structure that we can just plug into and immediately begin to give that broader support when we need it in a time of crisis like that. That's one of many reasons that we think it's so important to keep the association strong, and that we really appreciate the financial support for what we do. So thank you for all those who contributed and helped make today possible, in part by just keeping the association in good shape. The topic for tonight is specifically the emotional impact of the coronavirus. So tonight we're talking about the emotional impact and how we survive and thrive with the emotional impact of the coronavirus. And we really want to look at sort of 2 to 3 elements of that. One that I think a lot of us are sitting with in a big way in co-housing is, what's the emotional impact of isolation? Knowing that we are used to being in pretty close contact with our co-housing neighbors, and we enjoy seeing each other, and we absolutely as co-housers recognize the benefit of being physically in the same space together. What happens when that goes away for our own safety? And what impact does that have on us emotionally? And then I think the other pieces that I want to track are how we deal with the stress of the coronavirus situation, both the health stresses, the worry for our friends and neighbors and ourselves, and illness, and also the worry for the worldwide situation and the economic pieces, the loss of jobs or the loss of income or the loss of stock market resources, all of those sort of economic stresses, and just sort of, is the sky falling kinds of, the world is being impacted in a big way kind of news reports that we're getting. And not so much to look at whether those are true or not, but to the emotional toll that it takes on us to hear those, to engage with those, to think about those things. So how are we doing in the emotional world of the coronavirus and the isolation that we're needing to protect ourselves from that virus, and so on? So that's the topic of the night. And I think there will be a lot of really interesting things to be said about it. One of the messages that we hope you take home from tonight is that the idea that, while we are not for a minute suggesting that we can replace the value of in-person communications, that it is possible to use a tool like Zoom, as we are tonight, to have a sense of connection with one another, and that using those tools, particularly to just spend a little time and share with each other the lived experience of the stress of these days. And to be able to just take time and say to each other, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I'm feeling in this space and time, is incredibly powerful. And so our thought about that is that we wanted to give you a chance to do a bit of that tonight. So for about 10 minutes, we're thinking it would be fun to put you into little breakout rooms of 4 or 5. Everybody's back. So I hope you enjoyed that chance to connect with one another. And of course, that these could be longer opportunities as you schedule them at other times. I want to let you know about one more feature of Zoom, which is the raise hand feature. So if you click on the participants list at the bottom, you should have the opportunity to click raise hand. And if you do that, I will know that you would like to speak. You can also put that request in the chat. and if I can see an actual physical hand raised, I'll do my best, but I can't see all of you at once because we don't all fit on one screen tonight. So the raise hand feature is the best probably, and then the chat. And I'd like to just start with sort of reflections on the experience you just had. How did that work, and what did you hear, and what was of value to you or not about that? What worked or what didn't about connecting on Zoom and being space for each other? Lori, I see a hand.
It was great because there were 4 of us and we all had very different experiences. And so I found that very helpful to understand what other people are going through. And I do want to mention, I want everyone sworn to secrecy about the mess in this room. So can we clarify that?
Absolute secrecy.
You've never seen. Okay, good.
But we'll tell everyone on YouTube not to tell anyone else.
We won't even say that.
It's a great exercise.
I might have to put something on Coho L, Lori. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that too.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Lori.
Neil,
yeah.
I have. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great to hear. I see Linda Reed from Wasatch Commons. Thoughts? Linda, you'll have to unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can.
I raised my hand because we really had an interesting conversation, and Carrie was telling us about how they're doing a meeting in the courtyard and staying 6 feet apart. Like, I'm not sure if you said once a week, and you can fill us in on the details, but she was just about to describe some games that they were doing that they could do 6 feet apart. And I thought, what a great idea.
That is a great idea. I think this might be the moment, Karen, for your video. Karen has a little video demonstration of what something like that might look like.
Okay, you guys should be able to see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. This is happening right now as we speak. Are you ready?
Where's Brian?
Social distancing at its best.
And notice the spacing.
Spacing, less than 10 people outside.
I'm noticing a glass of wine as well.
Well, yeah, we decided at first it's going to be a happy hour, but maybe we'll end up doing something like that regularly.
Nice.
All right. So who else has something to share from your conversation? Or Laura at Sangaya, I see a hand.
Yeah, I actually have no idea where to find that raise your hand, but that's okay. The only thing I would say, my gut reaction to what you just said, is being outside 6 feet apart is very challenging for people with hearing loss. So that might be something we need to look at.
So the challenges of hearing loss for people who are 6 feet apart. Yeah. So if you're still not finding the raise hand function, it's you need to click on the participants button on the lower part of your screen, which may not be there until you move your cursor over it. And then off to the right near the bottom, you should see, I think it's a blue button that says raise hand. There's this quirk of Zoom that it won't let me raise my hand as a host. So I don't have that button, but I believe you all do. And Lois found it. So Lois, what do you have to share? Lois, you might be muted. I'm not hearing you.
Okay. On my screen, to raise your hand, it's in a different spot than you're describing, so maybe this will be helpful. It's under the more. If you see more, if you tap the more, then you get chat, meeting, now lower hand or raise hand, disconnect and cancel. So at least that's another spot you can look for it.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you much. And Christy, showing up as Christy's iPad.
Hi, I'm delighted to know that there is a feature of breakout groups on Zoom. We had wanted to have breakout groups at our last LLC meeting, which was entirely by Zoom. And so they just had to cancel that part of what they were going to do. So I will ask them to explore that so we can use that too. Thank you. And I just wanted to share with the rest of you that we had a Zoom game night on Sunday night for our community, and people had a blast. There are 5 only 5 households that participated on short notice, but there are things that can be done where all you need is 6 dice. And so they had a good time. Like if you touch your face, you lose points. And
was it a card game, or what kind of a game was it?
It's a dice.
Yeah.
You get points for different combinations, and you can find instructions on the internet. FARKLE. I'd never heard.
That's the name of the game.
Sparkle?
Yep.
Type that in the chat.
Pardon?
Type that in the chat.
Oh, if I can figure out how.
Yep. And so I'm glad you all got a chance to learn about Zoom's breakout rooms. One note about that is that it is a feature on Zoom you have to turn on. So you can contact me offline if you need help with that, but it's not, it's included in a paid Zoom account, but you do have to turn it on, which if you don't know to do that, you might struggle.
Thank you.
So that's the news about that.
Turn it on.
Turn it on in the settings. So, tell me more about what your community is doing or what ideas you have for addressing the emotional strain of coronavirus. We've heard courtyard gatherings, we've heard Zoom game nights. What else? Lori, I see a hand again.
Yeah, we did last Friday. Someone got a few 6-packs of Corona beer, which I thought was appropriate. And it was just nice sitting around 6 feet apart with some little crackers in packets. So they were, so that was fun. And I'm going to suggest we do that every week, but I'm not sure we're doing as much as we could to touch bases with people. And there's been a lot of talk about games for kids and different occupation for the kids. But again, I'm not as sure that we're connecting with people and seeing how they're doing like this is. I think we ought to do this more, just a chance for people to share so we each know what's going on with each other.
Great. So, yeah, so Corona beer and individually packaged crackers as an idea and an intention to maybe do more of just checking in with each other. That sounds great. Carrie at Pioneer Valley, I see your hand. We've got a list going here.
Yes, hi. Let's see, what we did was we sectioned people off and made pods. So the people that live next door to each other, like I'm in a pod that's 9 through 12. I'm in number 12. And so we go do things together every day, or we check in with each other. And so we went for a walk one day, we sang songs, we taught each other some songs, and then we went for a long walk today through a different area. It was just really fun to connect with people this way.
That sounds great. So getting some safe interactions in a real intentional way sounds like. Yeah, that sounds great. Jessica Bridges. I see you looking for there you go.
Yeah. A few things that we've done. I'm a part of the L'Arche Portland community, and we're basically we have regular meetings because we're also doing caregiving for folks with disabilities too. So we've got a lot of built-in times and just kind of basically transferring all of that to video. And today had kind of an ad hoc leadership team meeting via video. And then something that I did on Sunday, because a lot of folks aren't able to go to church who typically go to church and really appreciate that connection, was just had an online prayer service together. So 2 of our homes and myself at my home, we had a little bit of prayer time together. And of course, like also connecting people, like staying tuned to what's happening in other faith communities, what people can plug into. But that was a valuable time.
So a prayer time together by Zoom and checking in and moving a lot of your regular things to a video.
And we use Google Meet, and that's been pretty successful, just as far as comparing different platforms.
Great. Linda Tate.
Well, this is kind of this is a personal example, but my 60th birthday is coming up this Sunday, and I had planned to have a big trip and travel and so on and so forth. And due to an underlying health condition, I'm self-quarantining, so it's quite different from what I was expecting. And I'm not comfortable going outside and doing the 6 feet apart. That still feels too close to me. So I came up with the idea of sitting near my back door, opening the door so the screen door is there, and having my friends gather on my patio and celebrate with me and talk with me as close as I feel comfortable, and with the screen door as a little bit of a barrier. But that's one way. I'm just trying to think really creatively about how we can actually be together, because the Zoom stuff is great and I'm enjoying that, but craving, I live by myself also, so craving face-to-face interaction.
It's great. So getting really creative about how to get some actual face-to-face interaction besides all the Zoom. Love that. Karen at Muir Commons.
We haven't done that much, I don't think, yet, but I think we've been a little preoccupied with some of the practical changes that we're implementing. But people have suggested that we could have some small groups, and I heard someone else talk about pods. So I think the same idea, where we would have maybe 4 or 5 people who regularly stay in touch with each other and check in. There's also been suggestions for online book groups, and I just realized tonight that Zoom might work for that. And the other thing I just thought was worth mentioning is that a lot of people have offered, like I'm one of the older members of the community, so more in the high-risk group, like, do you have any errands we could run, or can we pick up some groceries? And even though that's not directly emotional support, it feels that way. It's a tangible way people are caring.
That tangible caring being part of the emotional support. Yeah.
Yes.
That's lovely. Becky from Heartwood.
Yes. The only thing we've implemented so far is we're going to have a charades night tomorrow. You don't need to be too close or have to handle tiles. So we thought that might work. And of course, we'll maintain distance. I'm getting some really good ideas from people. We just gave up in-house, in community meetings and dinners. I think I figured out that I'm probably more susceptible to depression or loneliness, because it seems like everybody else, they're either couples, or there are some singles who live together, or there are singles that go to work, and I don't fit any of those categories. And so there really hasn't been a large surge towards inventing activities, except for me. I'm busy inventing activities. That's it.
Thanks, Becky. Lots of good ideas there. Karen, you have your hand up.
That actually, so we have some folks in our community that are self-claimed introverts, and so getting together even in a group of less than 10 standing 6 feet apart is not something that they would choose. And we have some folks that are not as involved in the community as others. And we have some people that are both of those categories. And so I don't actually have a suggestion for that, but I'm thinking about how we can make sure that nobody is falling through the cracks.
So thinking about different needs and meeting those variety of needs. Yeah. Robin Harris.
Okay, found it.
Great.
So I was at the last meeting that we did on Zoom, and that inspired me to open an account for our community. And so thank you. And tonight we're going to have a St. Patty's Day / Zoom testing party. So we can figure out how to do this. And our community is going to try to use it for a variety of meetings. And also I'm going to try to maybe do a movie viewing where we can all, I think do a share screen and everybody can kind of hear each other laugh or comment or whatever. We'll see how that works. And also we talked a little bit about doing virtual dinners, the breakout idea. So maybe we can all meet and then break out into smaller breakouts to do that, because I think having dinner with 20 or 30 different people could get really confusing on Zoom. That's all.
That's great. Lots of great ideas there. I love the movie night. Intrigued. I'd love to hear how that goes. Libby from Sangaya.
Hi. Yes, we've been having a number of meetings. It's really ramped up in the last 4 or 5 days. One of the main things of Sangaya is we have a meal program where we have 5 meals a week together, dinners Monday through Thursday, and then Saturday brunch. And, we've got a big dining room, and so it's been people are, I think, missing this a lot. We've switched to still cooking the food, but going through the line, getting your own food and taking it home, which isn't as satisfying, obviously, but and I think a few people have had maybe 1 or 2 friends over to eat that meal with. Another thing that we talked about in one of our online meetings today was our work in the garden and how we feel that it's a great way to be able to interact. We can still stay 6 feet away from each other, still talk, and get our biggest chore done, which is planting acre and garden and getting it started, because we're very dependent upon our garden. We use it a lot. So being outside, getting the exercise, seeing each other physically, but and working in the garden seems to meet the criteria that we're staying safe and a good solution for a lot of us, I think, and makes us feel happy. So.
Gardening that makes you feel happy.
Yeah.
Great. We have a few folks that need to mute here, if you would please. All right. So I want to point to one other resource that's actually an older resource, but I think one of the things is that if we don't get as much interaction, if we can get deeper interaction, sometimes that's helpful. And I did one of the earliest web chats. It's web chat number 2 on the past web chats page of the website, is a structured conversation mechanism for having deeper conversations that works great over Zoom. So feel free to go to that. You just have to scroll all the way to the bottom to find web chat number 2, and it has everything you need to just use a structure to go a little deeper in conversation. So that's another possible tool out there for folks. Karin, I think you had another suggestion.
Letter writing. So as the restrictions, recommendations are more and more sticking us in our house and really not doing much. I mean, it's really increasing every day and likely to continue increasing for another week or so-ish, who knows. I was thinking we should write letters because most people are still checking their mail. Most common house USPS is across from the Cubbies. And so if you write a letter and you put it in somebody's cubby, you don't have to pay for the stamp. And I don't know, I just think we should write letters. I'm going to write my first one tomorrow. Not really sure who to who, but anyway.
So letter writing. What other ideas are out there to share? Libby, I see your hand up again. And Libby, if you'll unmute.
I had my granddaughters over recently who fortunately do live locally, but it was before all this really started getting ugly. And I shared with them, I showed them the love letters between my grandparents that they wrote starting around 1905 for several years. And these people were long gone before I was born. And I have about 50 or 60 of these letters that I have never read. So we discussed what should I, it was on my mind, what am I going to do with these love letters? Because I know your mother, my daughter, would not be interested in receiving them. So somewhere I had come across somebody else in the same situation who had transcribed the love letters, the correspondence. They had both sides. So I discussed this with the granddaughters who are like 11 and 9, and they just thought it was really cool. So we put them in sequential order, and now I'm reading the cursive writing that is hard to make out. And one of the granddaughters, or both of them, will take turns typing it into a file. So now that we've got this going, I'm going to do it over Zoom with the girls, and we'll get all these love letters transcribed, and I'm sure I'll learn a lot about these people I never knew, but obviously are very important to me. And then my granddaughters and I then said, well, what should we do with these after we're done transcribing? I said, maybe we should have a big bonfire up at where our fire pit is, and we'll burn them ceremoniously. And they kind of looked at me like I was nuts. And then I said, oh, well, let's make Valentines out of them. So I've got all the card making supplies. So at the right time, we'll turn these letters into accents for cards, Valentine cards.
Such fun. That sounds great.
And they'll be a part of that.
Thank you. Becky.
Okay. You can hear me now?
I can.
Okay, I had an idea of, there's a name for it. Just a silly thing. Painted rocks, hiding them. People on our trails will find them, take photographs of them. Not sure, maybe they'll put them somewhere else after disinfecting them. And we could keep going on that.
Oh, painted rocks, or pet rocks, I think sometimes called, depending on what they're painted, I guess. Great, what fun. Susan from ARIA. Susan, if you will unmute yourself. There you go.
There's some resistance to using Zoom from a chunk of the community, and part of it is that there's a, impatience that it doesn't work immediately, easily. Some people, 2 different households couldn't connect to the meeting. The Zoom function just wasn't working well. They had to phone in instead. And so the sound wasn't good. So there's frustration to deal with, and just this is new. I don't like technology. I don't do technology, but I see from all the ideas that people are suggesting tonight and last week on the call that you can really be creative with it. So I'm wondering, and also resistance to that, and like I noticed that the people who were present in the presence of each other all sat close to each other. There was no social distancing at all. And I was so surprised. I'm just not sure how to deal with resistance, period. Whether it's about Zoom or, we don't have to sit so far apart. It's fine.
So, yeah, differences of opinions, resistance to using Zoom, resistance to social distancing, people who don't feel the need to sit further apart, and just how to work with those kinds of differences.
Any ideas, people?
Any ideas? So I see some more hands going up. We'll keep going in order. And Christy, I think you were next.
I just wanted to say that I hope that before those love letters are rendered unreadable, that you would take pictures of them so they can be saved. It would be a shame to have these handwritten letters lost. They've lasted all this time. I'd love to see them recorded in some manner. That's all.
Thanks, Christy. Susan from ARBCO, Madison.
Karen?
Yes. Susan, let's unmute.
Hi.
There you are.
I had a couple recommendations for the resistance for Zoom. And they're kind of on 2 spectrums. One is to have folks in your community who are comfortable with Zoom, just do a Zoom one-on-one with a person who's resistant. The second is to recommend that the people who are maybe resistant just sign up for one of these Zooms and just watch. I learned so much about Zoom by just watching how this group worked, that it helped once we started using Zoom in our community. I was able to sort of help people out, and after 2-3 times it got better, but it was bumpy the first time. It was very bumpy the first time.
Great ideas, Susan. Thank you. Hafida? I'm probably saying your name wrong.
Yes. I liked, I think it was Susan that said that. Yes, we sent out an email with the Zoom encouraging people to install it. We have, I think probably 50% of our community is over 60. And then I held and what we did was we have any difficulty with that contact. In this case, it was me, and we'll find somebody to coordinate somebody to help you one-on-one over the phone. I did it over the phone. And then we had a login party. So it was just like a half hour on the weekend, and it was like 12:30, and it was like just log in, and just, say hi. And, there wasn't a meeting or any agenda except to just get everybody trying it out at the same time, and then seeing who else was there. And we had 22 people came. And what was really nice is we had associates who aren't residents joined in. So folks who normally wouldn't be on site were able to connect and see each other. And then after the meeting or after the little party, I sent an email kind of summarizing, like, this is who came and this is how many people came. And I'm also at the same time, I'm keeping track of all the members of the community and who I've confirmed has Zoom access. So that way I can keep track of who maybe doesn't have it. So that way, as we have more and more gatherings, it can continue to be accessible to everybody.
Such great ideas. That's wonderful. Joanne of Woodward Lane.
Hi, the resistance that she spoke about, right, kind of resonated with me when she talked about, people still getting together. And for me, it's the struggle that has to do with kids too, because we've got different levels of parenting and different levels of concern. And we had a birthday party here one night, and then all these teenagers running around our community, and it's really hard to for my 8-year-old to look out and say, I want to go out and play, Mom, and I'm like, I can't in good conscience let you do that. And so I'm just wondering if this is a similar situation other people are running into, and it kind of comes off the Zoom resistance, but also how do we help people to make safer choices or work together when we have different boundaries.
Yeah, so that experiences of different boundaries, different parenting styles, different approaches, and particularly the challenge of keeping kids inside when they see others outside who are not being kept inside. Yes. Totally new ideas in co-housing that parenting and different opinions and different boundaries would be challenging, right? It's never happened any other time, but it certainly is more intense in this moment, I think. So absolutely. Becky from Heartwood.
Oh, just regarding the resistance to social distancing, I mean, can we just do something simple like email those people with the CDC recommendations, which clearly state anyone over 65 should be doing social distancing?
So just sharing those clear recommendations. Yeah. Lori of Muir Commons.
Yeah, we've had, speaking of differences of opinion, so we're trying to develop a policy for use of the common house, and there are different, some people feel a little more stringent than others, but through the process, the consensus process, we're kind of coming up with something we could all live with, I think, but it's taking a while. There's some differences of opinion.
So working the consensus process, taking a while, but getting to that consensus point. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think one recommendation that I would have in terms of addressing resistance is that I think the sort of personal story speaks more loudly than, I think most people have seen the CDC recommendations. Most people aren't going to be surprised by those at this point. So there's something really valuable, I think, about being willing to say, I wonder if you would do it for me, because it's really important to me and it makes me concerned and it makes me scared and it makes me worried for my neighbors, or whatever that thing that's true for you. I think it really leans into the relationship element of what we do in co-housing, and often is more effective than to try to rely on, like, here are the facts, let me hit you over the head with them and prove to you how wrong you are and you have to do it my way, which even if we don't intend it to come across like that, it can. And so really leveraging their care for you as a person and your care for them. And it's a much more vulnerable way to go about it, but I think there's some value there. So that's my 2 cents on resistance, and how to address it. Not that that always works either. So Christy, I see a hand and we are coming up toward the end of our hour here.
Our governor has said on TV that if you don't do the social distancing, you could be killing your grandfather. And that's kind of a way to make it more personal for people.
And I think we'll take Tree as our last hand up, and then I'll wrap us up.
I recommend for the resistance empathizing with where people are at. People want to feel like they're in control. Here's a situation where a lot of us are not having the amount of control we want. People are scared, and they're scared of a variety of different things. So having a sharing circle in whatever format, whether it's sitting outside, sitting 6 feet apart, or on Zoom, you know, where people can talk about, like, here are my fears about this, and really confronting those emotional aspects directly. And even if people disagree, like, you can't actually physically control someone else's choices about social distancing or not, you know, but really trying to hold space for each other around it.
Love that, holding space for each other and empathy. Yeah, the tools we probably recommend in all of our co-housing situations carrying through, absolutely. And I'm reading Anne's comment in the chat as a nice place to end. Can we call it physical distancing rather than social? Feels more accurate. I like that thought too. So as we near the end of our hour, I want to thank everybody again for being here. We have a couple of more web chats scheduled on this topic. Thursday night of this week, we'll be talking about open houses. We had an open house day scheduled, and we'll be talking about how we might do virtual open houses, how to create video tours. And we think this is one of the examples where there will be some upsides. There will be some good news coming out of this whole mess that we're all in. And one of those might be if we get a bunch of recorded tours of communities that can go on the website and be even more accessible. Not that anything quite replaces in person, but just talking about what are the alternatives to having an in-person open house? What can we be doing instead? So that's coming up on Thursday. And I see Neil is getting links in the chat that give all the details. The same link that you used to get here tonight will work for all of the upcoming web chats. So if you registered already, you don't have to register again. Next week on Tuesday, a week from tonight, we will be having another web chat related to the coronavirus and what's going on. But you may have noticed, as we have, that things keep changing in this situation. So we have intentionally not named yet a focus of what that web chat will be. Watch the website, that link that Neil put in of the web chats for exactly the topic, or just join us anyway, because it's so fun to see everybody. So that's what's happening in terms of our response to coronavirus and the co-housing world and what we can do. Also, our upcoming was supposed to be live event at Rocky Corner in Connecticut is becoming an online event. So you can watch the website for more details about that. So that's another response that we're making at the association level to keep connections happening in the land of coronavirus. And then not in response to coronavirus, but just because it worked so well the first time and seemed like a great idea, we have now 3 additional online conferences scheduled. And they will not be canceled due to coronavirus unless something weird happens that I cannot foresee. They will still happen. So watch for those upcoming. The next of those is May 30th. And it will be on the heart of community. All the relational kinds of things that we're talking about tonight will be in there. We just sent out in various places the links to register either or to submit a proposal either to be a speaker, or if you're not inclined to be a speaker but you have an idea of content you'd like to see at any of the 3 conferences, online conferences upcoming. We're taking those proposals now. So those are all ways to keep staying engaged and connected. I saw someone in the chat early on said that they would make a donation to Co-Housing Association today. We really appreciate that. You can do that at cohousing.org and click the donate button. Our very favorite donations are recurring monthly donations, even in small amounts, and certainly in larger amounts. Those really help us keep a consistent income, which allows us to provide consistent services and to have the bandwidth to then step up when there's need for more. We've never done 4 web chats in 2 weeks ever, but we're doing it for coronavirus, and we're able to because we have that foundational infrastructure. So thanks everybody for being here. So many good ideas. This web chat will go up with the others as a past web chat within the next week. Usually I get it done in a day or 2. We will also take the chat ideas there, so that'll be there for folks. And that wraps us up for tonight. Karan, did I forget anything?
Nope, I don't think so. Thank you. I'm so excited to share some of my new ideas.
Look out, Wild Sage. Here comes a bunch of new stuff.
I know.
Thanks,
Watch
everybody.
out. Here I come.
That's good.
It's great to see you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.